Hello everybody, I'm glad you're here today. Today is August 5th, 2025. In this video, we're going to talk about some things that I've seen flying over my house. So we're going to see what's going on in your neck of the woods. That's all just have an information dump here, like, put in the comment section, what are you seeing in your neighborhood that looks different, that is not right? I'm telling you, it feels like we're just in the lull before another big labor pain kind of thing. That's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? So anyway, we're going to talk about that just ever so briefly. I'm going to read out of my journal to you. I think you'll find it interesting. We're going to read out of the Bible ever so briefly, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my neighborhood, my town. I'm going to tell you what's going on in my town. I'm just now looking at myself for the first time. I'm like, oh my word, you could tell I've been working today. So, and all of these things I just mentioned may not be in that order. So, don't hold me to the order, but we'll talk about those things. So, first of all, yesterday morning, a Chinook helicopter flew over my town, flew over. It did not fly directly over my house. It just kind of flew, I could see it off in the distance. Taylor my daughter was leaving for work. She called me and said, Mom, look out, run in the backyard and look and see. She thought it was an osprey at first, which seeing osprey fly over our house is not unusual based on the Air Force base we live close to. They land in and out of there. So that would not have been unusual. A Chinook helicopter, yes, indeed, is unusual. That isn't something we don't see. And the last time we saw something like this was last year. I looked it up. It was in September. I think it was September 16th or something like that, where there were 4 Chinook helicopters that did fly directly over my house. I mean, my backyard. Yes. And I heard them before. I saw them super loud. And I know y'all remember me talking about it. It was like Red Dawn. I mean, they were like coming up over the horizon. I was like, oh my word, I did not know. And in fact, we had some friends that were plowing out in the field, y'all, plowing out there, and the Chinooks flew over them, and they texted and said, we could see the servicemen hanging out, like not hanging out, but sitting on the back of the helicopter. It was open, so they were just like sitting on the edge while it flew. Stinking cool. I mean, it was like cute Fortunate Son. I mean, I say that every time, but that is what it felt like. So anyway, we saw a Chinook yesterday. Very unusual. I used to think, like last year, I thought, oh my word, oh my word, oh my word, why are we seeing so many why is so much military activity going on above us? And don't tell me that it's always been that way, because it hasn't. I've lived here nearly 40 years, y'all, and I can tell you, I've been outside a lot, and this kind of seeing these kind of military aircraft flying over us is not what used to not be that way, but it has been since 2020. I mean, 2020 there. I don't know, maybe 2022. In the last few years, it has picked up. So what are you seeing in your neck of the woods? I'm very curious. So just tell me, what do you what's going on? I do feel like there is, whenever, and I can tell, this is just me. Y'all tell me what you think. Whenever the prepping prepping channels, YouTube channels I go to and listen to, whenever they are kind of stretching for information to bring, like, not much is happening, and they kind of start repeating themselves, that usually to me is a sign that it won't be long before something really big pops off, because it feels like it just goes into a lull, like a labor pain. The Lord told us that for a reason, right? So there's a lull, and then it comes on again. So that is where I think we're at. I think I just am watching it. It feels like the rubber band is being pulled tighter, and it's going to pop back. I don't know. That's just me. Y'all tell me what you think. I'm not too preoccupied with it, but I do think I do sense that. So in my town, let's see. I guess it was last week. We got 3.5 inches of rain in about 45 minutes. All right. So that is like that's very odd. That does not happen. I live in the Texas Panhandle, y'all. We are very dry climate. 3.5 inches of rain and it's rained every week this summer. Every week, nearly every night. Some weeks. So very unusual for us. So while it was raining so hard, so long, guess what happened? Our electricity pop went off. So I was like, I was not concerned because I thought it's the rain. Sometimes we have a leaky transformer or whatever it's called up there on that pole, and yeah, sometimes it just shorts out. I guess I don't know enough to speak wisely or informatively about that, but anyway, it makes electricity go off. But just in our, like, there weren't very many people affected by it. It was me and my mom and dad's house. Of course, they lived right next door. And so our block, and then across the street, which happens to be where the city manager lives. So let me tell you, if his electricity goes off, let me tell you, we're going to be popping that stuff on back. That's going to be coming on fast because he's going to get on it and make sure we get our electricity back on. But my neighbor, Susu for short, my neighbor Susu, I texted her, I said, hey, do y'all have power? She said, no, do y'all? And I said, no, neither do my parents. And so we were talking. She said, well, in a little bit, I got a text back from her, and she said, well, Vi and Jean have power. And I thought, Vi and Jean have power? And they're just like not far from us. And I was like, well, okay, so it's not the whole town. So whatever it is, it's just something freaky with us. So she always checks with Vi and Jean. And Vi and Jean are some of my favorite people, especially Jean. So funny. He's so funny. They were so young when they got married. And they're like old now. They're probably in their early 80s. Mid 80s, something like that. I'm guessing at that, but I'm saying that's. But anyway, they had to have their parents sign for them. But they were so in love. I think she might have been 16 and I think he was 17. They are still married to this day. I mean, anyway, they're stinking funny. Anyway, they yeah, so their power was on, ours wasn't. And that's the beauty of living. That's the beauty of living in a small town where you know people. And that's why you need to get to know your neighbors. That is one of those prepping things that before any kind of disaster hits, and it doesn't have to be war, it doesn't have to be the apocalypse, it doesn't have to be an EMP. It could just be like, hey, a leaky transformer, knocks out your power, or a tree falls on your lines. That know your people around you. Okay, it's always good to know them so you can check on them. Not only you can check on them, but you never know when you might need to pull together. So that happened, and that was interesting. We were ready. We were ready, man. We were ready. So I felt good about our readiness. I felt real good when the power came back on. Yep, that was really nice. So that happened. Now then, let me see. What else has happened? We've had a lot of deaths in our community. Oh, yeah, we had a package. Taylor had a birthday last week, and one of her friends sent her a package, and I do not know why, but the post office, was it the post office? I don't know what the delivery system was. We don't get our mail at our houses. We have to go to the post office to get our mail every day. We never go every day, but we used to. But we have to go get our mail. We don't have a mailman drive around. In fact, when we lived in the city for a couple of years and the mailman came to our door to deliver our mail, it blew my children's minds. They were like, Mama, you will never guess what we just say. And I said, what did you just see? A man came up to our door and put our mail in that box. I was like, really? That's called a mailbox? I mean, they didn't even know. So that's how backwoodsy we are. But anyway, for whatever reason, Taylor had a package. It went to the wrong house. It went to our old house, the preacher house, the parsonage, which someone else lives there now. Well, the beauty of a small town is we know who lives there, and they know where we live. And so, lo and behold, guess who started walking up to my house this morning with that package? It was Sandy, and it's actually her kids that live there. And she's like, "We don't know why this package came to their house, your old address." And I said, "I don't know either, but it did." And da 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 da. So anyway, we got that we got that all straightened out. So there are perks to living in a small town. In fact, I don't want to talk too much, but Dakota and Taylor went to Kansas City last weekend for a wedding. And I assure you, my children were very, very glad to get back into the country, especially my son. He was like, "You know what?" I asked him, I said, what'd you learn on this trip? He said, "I learned I don't want to ever live in the city." I was like, yeah, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with the city. I'm not saying that, but it's just not our party. It might be yours, and that's okay. That's just how people are different. People are different. I would like to talk a little bit about what the Lord gave me on August 4th, 2025. And I think it's for everybody. I think it's a reminder for me. Y'all, it is so easy in this day and age, especially with school starting again. A lot of people equate being busy with being successful. And that is like, the busier I am, the more successful I am. That is a lie. All right, that is a lie. It may be from the enemy, it may be from your own brain. I don't know. But I would encourage everyone, if possible. Now, sometimes this is not possible. If possible, to look at your life. And if you're doing things you don't really need to do just for the sake of feeling successful, or if you're really tapped out on your energy, or discouraged, or stressed, or weary, or tired, you may be doing things you really don't need to be doing. And I'm not talking morally, I'm just talking like schedule. Do you really need to go get your nails done? I mean, I was talking, Sandy came up and she said, "I don't get my nails done anymore." And I said, "I have never gotten my nails done." I said, when I had babies and I couldn't put a diaper on with fingernails on, that was the end of nails for me. And plus, I don't choose to spend my money that way. Other people do, and that's fine. I just don't. She said, "I don't do that anymore. I didn't want to spend money that way, and I'm not doing this, and I'm not doing that. We're not getting a new pickup because this one's just fine." And so I was like, you get, and Sandy's about my age, and she's like, there are things that are important and there's things that aren't. And if you're feeling really stressed out, it might be a good time, like I said, to look at your life and ask yourself, am I doing things that really aren't necessary? Am I scheduling things? Are my kids participating in things that are stressing the family? I'll tell you something. If it was stressing our family, we didn't do it. If we could, if it was at all possible, we just don't spend time that way. That's not how we live. But that's just, I'm not strapping that on everybody. I'm just saying it's an option. It's an option for other people. I know it really helped our family. So sometimes it feels like you can't get off the merry-go-round, and I assure you, you can. All right. Which brings me to, let's read the Bible first, and then I'll read out of my journal. This is one of my favorite. I think of this verse often because I just live by this verse. 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 13. Make it your goal to live a quiet life, minding your own business and working with your hands, just as we instructed you before. Then people who are not believers will respect the way you live, and you will not need to depend on others. Let me read that last verse again. Then people who are not believers will respect the way you live, and you will not need to depend on others. So not only will you have enough food on the table, y'all, but people will respect the way you live. And if they respect the way you live, they're more apt to listen to the gospel coming out of your mouth when you get a chance to visit with them. And that's the truth. I have seen that. In truth, in real life. Okay. This is not very long. But I think it will. Let's just hold on to this while the school year starts, right? And everything else, and examine yourself, examine your life. August 4th, 2025. You do not have to ride the wave of busyness, my children. In truth, that wave is meant to drown. The enemy's strategy? To keep you chasing your own tail. Round in circles you go at such speed, you believe the lie of, I have no choice but this. I say to you now, step out of that circle. Live with intent to never be busy by your own hand. Laziness and busyness are what keep my children from my worship. Guard against both. So I'm going to just leave that with you. I do think because when the Lord talks to me and says the word children, it's for me to bring to the channel. I I've kind of cracked that code, y'all. So so there you go. There you go. All right. I'm going to leave that with you. I've got tons of stuff to do, y'all. In the fall, I am so busy. No, I'm just teasing. Oh, that's funny. No, I've just, lately things for me have felt resolved. Like all of these little things that have been picking at me uh, over the last few months they've all been ironed out by the Lord. Today's the first day I felt like was like it used to be when before my dad got so sick and before my mom got so sick. So yay, I'm enjoying it. I'm living in it. But I do have to go finish up the laundry and do some other things. Uh, there's a balance between being super, super busy and super, super, super lazy, and just try to live that quiet life where you work, you're steady on, mind your own business, and then people will come to you and respect what you have to say about Jesus. And that's the beauty of living that way. All right, I'm going to leave that with you. Stay safe, America, from the pantry. This is Gina Lima Charlie. I'm out.